Welcome back to the FinTech Ledger. I'm your host, Reggie Riley, and today we are joined with a very special guest, someone who's truly reshaping how financial operations scale in the digital era. Tanya Hiltz, CEO of Cloud Business Services, and very importantly, the recipient of the 2025 Great Companies International Women Entrepreneur Award. Tanya has built one of the most forward-thinking cloud-based accounting and financial operations firms in the industry, and she brings a unique blend of technology leadership, operational excellence, and real-world entrepreneurial grit. Today we'll explore her journey, how Cloud Business Services is using AI to accelerate efficiency and customer acquisition, and where she sees the FinTech landscape heading. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Reggie. Happy to be here.
Very good. Thank you. Glad you're here. Can you share a bit of your personal and professional journey, how you arrived at Cloud Business Services, and what inspired you to lead the FinTech BPO space?
Absolutely. So I have taken a long route to get here in an extremely untraditional route. This is officially my third career. I spent 17 years in insurance, which overlapped in 97 with taxes. So I've been dealing with tax and compliance since 97. Had my daughter 24, she was 24 on Sunday. So 24 years ago on Sunday,
Happy birthday.
had her. And my husband came home up in Canada. We had just extended the maternity leave to 12 months. And he came home and it was 6.5 months. And I was just holding her in tears. And he walks in and panics. And I said, I just watched an Oprah show on nanny cams. I can't do it. I can't send her to nannies and daycare. And so he said, well, all right, let's do this. So that kind of started in taxes. And then I built a, fairly successful tax practice of where we were at that point, enough to balance everything out so I could still go to her school. I volunteered with her school. I did school trips. Being a hands-on mother was extremely important, but I'm also very career-driven. I could not just be a stay-at-home mom. I need to be doing things constantly with my mind. Initially, I was going back to work after 30 days and my husband was going to take the paternity leave. So, I've definitely come a long way. But then when we moved here 17 years ago, she didn't need me as much. I was working part-time. I had my tax company and then I was working telecommunications part-time just to be able to balance things out. I did that for 5 years so I could pay some, pay off some of the big debt that it costs staying home and whatnot. And then we moved here and I'm like, well, I can't do that anymore. So I either go back to work full-time or I expand into bookkeeping. So I decided to expand into bookkeeping. And it was all desktop back in those days.
Yeah.
And I was one of the first clients on QuickBooks Online in 2012 in Canada. And I was within the first 50. And it took me 2 years to accept online accounting. I kept going, this isn't like desktop. Desktop does it better. And somebody said to me, if you had 2 children and you raised them the same way, do you expect them to have the same personalities? And I went, well, of course not. And that just kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And so I embraced QBO. When I embrace things, sometimes it takes me a little longer to accept things. But when I accept it, I embrace it very quickly. Fast forward into now, I've been doing things very differently because I was customer focused, customer driven. I've been saying for years, this is all about the relationship. And that's one thing that a lot of other accounting professionals don't bring to that relationship because you're not taught that in school. You're not taught customer relations, but that was every career that I did: insurance, telecommunications, taxes, bookkeeping. It's all a non-tangible service. And to keep the client's loyalty is all about the relationship. So that was really important to me. So that started the build. Then comes QBO. Then comes bank fees. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is going to replace us. No, it's going to change what we do. And now we are faced with a very similar threat. AI is a threat only if we choose to look at it as a threat. It is a threat to how we're currently doing things, but it's enabling us to change and have better relationships with the clients and the bookkeepers to take the knowledge that we have had. It essentially is propelling us into a position where we can be doing management accounting type things, really getting more hands-on with the client. And that excites me. Making a difference with clients excites me. It was actually a conversation that really propelled me into the AI world. 4 and a bit years ago. I've been on ChatGPT since it was in beta. And it felt like it was so long because I resisted it for all of 2 weeks, but that 2 weeks felt like it was years. I still feel like I'm a newbie into it, but I am actually within the top 5 in Canada, accounting professionals who is that involved in the AI. I actually speak on AI at least a half a dozen times a year on how we can use it ethically, properly, what the limits are. There's so much controversy around it, and it's how we can embrace it and use it properly to move us forward and to help us with our clients and our business instead of being a threat to us. So it's all about understanding that. And I do break AI weekly.
Yeah. Fantastic.
That's my goal. My goal is I cannot finish that week off if I've not broken it. And my ChatGPT does in a New Zealand male voice, because I've purposely set it up that way. When I break them and he realizes that, I get a verbal, "I'm sorry, Tanya, you were right and I was wrong." My week is not over till I've heard that.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. That is fantastic. Oh, my gosh. I've got to look into getting a different voice for mine. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I love it.
You know what woman doesn't want to hear the male voice? My husband will never say that to me. Even if it's true, he will never admit that. So this is AI is the only way I'm going to get that satisfaction.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's fantastic. Great. Thank you very much for that. So when you founded Cloud Business Services, what unique gap or opportunity did you see in the marketplace, particularly in financial services, of course, that you aimed to address? It sounded like you had a bit of an evolution into it, but as you progressed, what were the gaps you saw and the opportunities you were seizing?
It was dealing with small business owners. The small and the micro business and the entrepreneurs, the sole proprietors, there was a gap. In Belleville, which is where I started the firm, because I had moved, it was the move that we did 17 years ago that said, okay, I need to evolve and get into this, that there was an all or nothing mentality. And I don't believe that. I believe empowering the small business owner. That's where the relationships have always come in, and empowering them. So we actually do niche in really small micro businesses. We have online courses that I've developed over the 17 years of working with bookkeepers and myself, the compiled 17 years of hundreds of us of what every client thinks that they know and gets wrong. So we've got all of that compiled into a course that's called Mastering Small Business Ownership with QuickBooks Online. So I've pulled that in together, and it is officially available in beta mode kind of right now. It'll be a full-on launch next year. But that's where the gap is. The gap is those small business owners that can't afford to have that professional doing it. They can't afford the professional CFO. Right. To do it. They still need the support to do it right. And what I go back to is when I was in insurance, I worked for one of the big 5 banks. Yes, Canada only has big 5 banks, whereas I know in the US it's you guys have 5 big banks on every street corner, right?
Right.
But there's 5 in Canada. And when I worked for one of them, when they got into insurance, some of the people from the banking came over to me, and I did not understand their mentality. And that has really driven the way that I have focused the business. They said to me, because I had to have a bank account with that bank to get paid. And every time I would walk in, this is back in the days, early 90s, mid 90s, where I still wanted to see a teller. I liked knowing I could have a teller there. I felt I was keeping a teller in the job. And every time I walked in, they would walk me over to the ATM and show me how to use the ATM. And so I said something to work about some of the people that came over from the bank. And I said, what is this all about? Don't they realize I'm helping keep them in a job? And they said that there's, in the banking industry, at least in Canada, their thought process is there's A clients, B clients, and C clients. The A clients, you've got mortgages, investments, and whatever. They make a ton of money off you. They want everybody to be an A client. A B client might have a mortgage, you might have a car loan, but you don't have everything. You're on your way to be an A client. And a C client is the average working Joe who has a bank account, but might not have, mortgages and investments and all of this stuff. That's where we all start. But as far as I'm concerned, I said, but if you're not going to look after me when I'm a C client, I'm not going to stay with you when I'm a B client and an A client.
Right.
And that was really powerful, a powerful lesson to me. And that's how I've lived everything. I will pay more for a better quality service. I don't go into my bank much. The bank I'm with now, I did obviously change banks. They weren't the bank I was with before I stayed with them. I stayed with them just while I worked with them, just to get my paycheck, and that was it. But the My philosophy is I will pay more for that service. I like knowing I have a personal banker and a business banker. I can send him an email. I'm like, don't call me, don't bug me. If you need me, you'll hear from me once every couple of years. But when you hear from me, I would like to hear back from you. And
Yeah.
that is the relationship I want. Just to know somebody is there, a person is there, and I have a bit of a relationship with them just in case I need them. And so that's what we have done here. I'm going to look after that person when they are a C client, because they can't afford to be an A and a B, like a B and an A client,
Right.
until they get to that point, and they're going to naturally stick with the person who has helped them get their goals and to increase. So whether they hire an employee, guess what? We're going to be able to do virtual CFO work. We're going to be training the employee. That trust and relationship is already there. So it is going to be a no-brainer to grow with them. And
Right.
in my opinion, it is much, much cheaper to keep a client than it is to acquire a new client. That loyalty is
Yep.
priceless. And so
Yep.
that is what I have focused everything on. And that is why we're different. And that is why the one thing, I know it's kind of older, but those of us that have been in the accounting industry, for close to a decade, Intuit used to have a contest, and they had it for 5 years. And it was called the Intuit Firm of the Future. And what they did is they took all of the countries that had the QuickBooks Online. So 2018, it was so 2017 there was 4 countries. 2018 they included India. So there was Canada, the United States, Australia, England, and India. And so 2017 I was a Canadian runner-up. 2018 we won for Canada, and we won the global title.
Yeah.
A small, tiny firm, 3 full-time employees, which is myself at that point, going up against, I thought for sure, I'm like, US is going to win.
Yeah.
There's just absolutely no way. Little tiny one from Canada, but it was all about the relationship that we had with the clients, the social media. There was money that was being donated to kiva.org. And the one thing that I noticed from the year before, I did not ask people to vote for me. I said, I am not comfortable in that. We're not going to win. Let's put the focus on, the small business owner. Let's put the focus on the charitable, our charitable organization. And apparently that spoke to a lot of people. And that was a
Yeah.
big reason why we won, is because of the humbleness and the focus on the small business.
Yeah.
And the focus on the charity versus, hey, we're a big firm with 20 some odd employees. And so that's
Phenomenal.
what Intuit back then said, this is the firm of the future. And we have still done it with small clients, and we're still here. And some of those other ones that were in there, they've definitely changed over the years. COVID had a big impact.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
still here. We didn't lose not
Yeah.
one client through COVID.
Wow,
So-
fantastic. Congratulations. What a great story, and so purpose and mission driven. It's very inspirational. That's really terrific. Wow.
Thank you.
So you spotted that niche and you grabbed it, and boy, did the market respond. That's very exciting. So let's talk about customer acquisition. How have the priorities in customer acquisition changed for you in the recent years, especially with the emergence of digital channels, FinTech disruption? We'll get to AI in a second, and if you want to include it in here, you certainly can. But just how has that changed?
It's changed a little bit in my lead funnels. So we are very intentional. Everything I do is intentional. I know the answer before I ask it, just like a parent. When I ask my husband or my children the answer or the question, I already know the answer. I'm just testing them to see if they're going to be truthful or not. But everything I do is with intention. So everything we have set up, I was lucky enough to mentor under Ron Baker for a year. I mentored under Jeannie Whitehouse for a year. Like wonderful, wonderful, huge names in the industry. And what I learned as I was going through that is be intentional with your client. We are very intentional. With us, I can't explain a client avatar. And I've had people, Ron's tried to do that with me, Jeannie. I've worked with Rondell and Corlick out of Australia. I've worked with Tanya Woods Richardson out of here. I've had many, many mentors. I'm working with Richard Rupert Roberts out of the US as well, out of California right now again. And I cannot describe it because it's a feeling. I do have certain things. I've got a questionnaire. There's certain triggers. You've got to answer this right. One of the most important questions is, what do they feel the most important role of a bookkeeper is? I don't want to see high on data entry, because that's not what we do. We don't do data entry. I don't want to see low on government compliance, because as a professional, it is my job to do what is right for the client, and that's not to set them up to have to pay the government back money in the case that their books are looked at. So there are certain things that are really important to me, that I will only work with business owners whose values align. And then it becomes a matter of feeling. Is this somebody that I can see myself going out with, on a pub crawl on a Friday night and still being able to face the next day? I want to deal with people that I enjoy working with. So one of the rules that we have here is, if we ever get a phone call from somebody, and it's not a one-off, if we get a phone call, we get an email, and the immediate response is, oh, they're not necessarily the right client. So we are very particular about that. So we are mostly, I do not spend a lot in advertising. Our customer acquisition is mostly word of mouth. We are definitely a part of some small business, local business networking groups here, who they take the time to understand who we want. I would much rather grow small and intentional. Through COVID, I changed my philosophy a little bit. We changed things. We said, okay, build it and they will come. I got myself set up, and that was a $350,000 mistake that I'm writing about in my blogs. I took my eyes off of my business. I did things wrong, and we ended up firing about $10,000 a month in clients that were just not a good fit. I'm like, no, you know what? Again, I didn't listen to my initial processes. We changed it. The change was not good. I would rather grow slow and intentional than fast and then have a flip. I don't want, I want client retention.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Well,
and to be able to do that word of mouth too is fantastic. I mean,
exactly. So what we use our social for, and this is where AI is stepping in, is our social. I've always looked at that as it is not necessarily to get clients. It is building our brand. It is a slow brand build. So our personality is out there. So when I had my dog Rosie, who is a beagle, she was here. She was actually on our website as our office manager, and said her job is to greet people. So in other words, if you don't like dogs, don't come to the office, because she's going to be at the door right as soon as you open it, right? So it's been very, again, intentional as to our personality. I have purple hair, right? So on our website, you see it's my hair color with Sandra, who's my right-hand person, her hairstyle, and it says Ancient Mama's Bookkeeper. We're not the normal person. There's a little bit of personality. Mind you, it took me a long time to be okay with my personality coming through when I'm, in the world of, trying to a bookkeeper trying to keep up with the accountants. I was like, the little kid sister trying to keep up with the big brothers type of thing. And I felt I couldn't be myself. So that took a while to be like, no, here I am. But yeah, so I'm definitely using AI to help craft that message, help me get a little bit more creative, because I do have a creative side, but it's difficult for me to get creative. So I'm using AI, to write reverse blogs for me. I call it a reverse blog because I feel my voice is very important. So I will have AI write me a blog on the opposite point of view I want to write my blog on, so that I get pissed off and get emotional and whatnot. And I write great blogs when I'm pissed off. I used it. I did a 30-day, help me come up with really creative ways as to, sarcastic ways as to why people should not use a professional. Oh, you're an adrenaline junkie. There's nothing better than sitting there in the government office waiting until last minute to find out how many thousands of dollars you owe in penalties. And, so I'm using it more for creative. So again, it's the lead generation with that, and more so like that I'm using it. I'm not using agents intentionally. I don't feel they're there, and they don't speak my brand yet. And I've been using ChatGPT for 4 years, and it's still, it's close to me, but it's still not me, and people can see that. So
yeah. Very creative use of that, boy. You hear about people setting up content in kind of the opposite way. And you noted, yeah, it was the opposite. You get the antagonist point of view, and then you go after it. I love it. I love it.
That's more my personality. So
I love it. I love it. Fantastic.
Nobody keeps baby in a corner, right? So
right, of course. Are you using AI in customer onboarding, process automation, or is it really just some of the areas you mentioned?
So I'm using it definitely with in a roundabout way, customer onboarding and process automation and whatnot. So we're definitely using automation. I am using the AI, so I work with it every single week. And even if it's something that I know I can do faster with, spreadsheets or whatnot, I'm still using it because I'm pushing the boundaries. I need to understand it to continue to be a thought leader in it and to continue to be a sought out speaker. So I'm constantly doing that. So I'm using ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google LM, Sintra.ai, and Claude. So I'm using them all for different things. ChatGPT and Sintra are creative and marketing. Of course, ChatGPT, I do work with it quite a bit just to push its limits and whatnot.
Sure.
But ChatGPT was created for creatives. When I'm working in the books, I'm using more Claude. So what I will do is I will turn on ChatGPT and I'll talk to him and I'll talk my process out. So I'm using it to help with the automations. I'm using it to help create my workbooks or my client handbooks. Just this week, I used it to create a client handbook because I'm wordy. If you've not picked up on that yet, I'm wordy. It can take my words and my thoughts, which go all over the place, and help bring it in and have something very streamlined. So I use it for that all the time. I'm using it for spreadsheets. I am right now using it. I'm trying to simplify my pricing and onboarding process, and I do have a spreadsheet, a value pricing template, basically that I've been using for years, and hundreds of accounting professionals that they're using the same sheet. And I'm trying to take it to the next level. So I've been working with Claude on that, and I've maxed Claude out about 4 times a day over the last 20 days trying to do that. But Claude can go in and can create all these spreadsheets that can have 7 tabs and references back and forth. And I'm self-taught on Excel. I'm self-taught on a lot of things. So I can do it in Excel, but now I have to sit there and look up on Google, how do I do this, and walk through it, and then I'm going to forget for next time. So I'm using Claude to, again, push the limits on that. And I find that Claude, when it comes to financial analysis and spreadsheets, is way better than ChatGPT. ChatGPT tends to almost get exhausted and get tired, and then it gets creative.
Yeah.
And so it's trust but verify. So everything I do, I'm actually then going in and verifying it. So some people are like, Tanya, took you 4 times longer. Well, again, there's a reason. I'm trying to help it, trying to teach it, trying to help it get better, and to see what I can realistically do and not do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love how you're thinking about all of them a little differently with Claude in one fashion and so on, and really know their expertise. You're clearly a thought leader there and a heavy user. You mentioned Intuit earlier. We've talked about ChatGPT today. Big announcement, Intuit and their new partnership with ChatGPT. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, first off, congratulations on probably being one of the first podcasts to be talking about that. And you know what?
You.
I have to say it's going to be a wait and see. I feel like, as we talked about it ahead of time, my first thoughts were like, it's like watching 2 cars waiting to see them collide. I only use QuickBooks Online, so I only want the best out of it. But you know what? Intuit knows that we have been wanting the core fixed. The bank feeds, the way the new AI bank feeds, there's a lot they've got to learn. They've gone backwards. They've gone probably about 7 years back in time to try to reset to get better. What worries me is end users who are the small business owner who are trying to do things as cheap as possible. I'm worried about them getting incorrect information. This week alone, I have dealt with 5 different people who are like, well, ChatGPT told me this. Your prompt was wrong. It was only half there. It was, there's something wrong with it. And it's like, this is exactly why you will never be able, AI will never be able to replace me, because I can identify what's wrong. And then, as I said, ChatGPT earlier, I use it every day. I have the team subscription on it. I've got custom GPTs, but I know its limitations, and its limitations are it gets creative. I ask I used to use Google for this, and again, I still do, but I actually use Perplexity now for more for the research part of it, because now that Google has its AI, I've again proven its AI is lied weekly. Again, it just doesn't tell me in a male voice that I'm right. But ChatGPT gets creative, so I say to them, whenever I do a presentation, I'd love to do a new quote of somebody famous that's relevant to the topic.
Yeah.
You ask ChatGPT, the more times I ask it, I now get 7 out of 10, as of the last time. 7 out of 10 quotes were quotes that apparently I gave and I never gave, ever.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
when I tell it, oh, where did you get those sources from? Please show me the sources. Oh, sorry, Tanya, I got a little creative. This sounded like something you might say. And so this scares me when we look at, the fact that Intuit is still training it and doesn't have the core solid, and then
Yeah.
ChatGPT not being solid and putting the two together. I'm really worried. So
Yeah.
I wish them both the best, and I hope this does, get to where they want it to be, but I think it's going to take a lot of time to get there. And I just worry again about those small business owners that go in. What's the information they're getting now? Because Claude
Right.
has proven to me time and time again to be more accurate for financial information, and it's not. And even, ChatGPT isn't. And even when I'm using my own real data, it
Yeah.
still is coming up with incorrect assumptions. So it's scary to me.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the shareholders, but I'm scared for the industry right now and what that's going to do for those small business owners. Ultimately, I think it's just going to stay why it, continue to instill why you need to work with a professional.
Yeah, let's hope so, right? I mean, with your level of understanding and your level of usage of these tools, you come at it from a totally different angle, and you know where the strengths and weaknesses are. The challenge and concern is most people out there are going to say, well, it said this or it said that, and that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm headed.
And let's look at the privacy of information. Right now, the top 4 industries in the world: drugs, weapons, human trafficking, and data mining. Huge. ChatGPT has already been breached. There was a 2-day breach. Although you pay for the subscription, you say don't let it learn anything. The minute you put it out there on the internet, it is there. US has privacy laws. Canada's got privacy laws. The EU, we've all got different privacy laws. And right now, if there is a breach of information and we are uploading any client identifying information, even in these private paid accounts, it does not matter. It is just the same way as our credit cards getting hacked in. How many times a year do we get new credit cards or get, something saying, oh, we think it's hacked, so we're going to give you, free credit monitoring for 6 months or a year. This is where this is going, and this is a huge, huge concern, and why we need to be extremely careful on what we're loading into it, because of the data mining, and that's where hackers are going to go to get the data.
Yeah.
Forget everything else that can go wrong with it. That,
Yeah.
from our profession, a professional issue, that is a big concern.
Well, it is very timely, and this soundbite's going to be up on my LinkedIn before you know it today, because
There we go.
this is
You want to
this
get
is hot
ahead
off
of
the
the curve
press.
on this one.
Well,
Good
it's a
thing
great response, and you're probably going to get some phone calls too. People want to know more about what you think about it. I mean, it's really
that
spectacular.
is great, and send me the link. I'll be getting this shared out too, because you
Okay,
got to
all
jump on it. And good
Yeah.
thing is I hope I don't need very much editing in the back end either, so you just get it
Yeah,
up.
no.
I mean, if I say it, I'm fine for it to go out there public. So
Good. I don't think you will. You seem like you really know what you're doing here and everywhere else, so I don't think you will.
well, thank you. Thank you, Richard.
All right, a slightly milder topic, I would say, is AI helping you with improving customer acquisition or retention in your business? And are there any results you think about there, or maybe it's not playing that kind of role with you?
So it is definitely playing a little bit of a role, the time-saving role. I refuse to turn on the agents. I will not use them for customer service or for whatnot. I did a podcast last week, and I almost canceled it because of the unprofessionalism. And it turned out that was the chat agent. And I said, well, your chat agent almost lost me. It
Wow.
was just absolutely insane.
Wow.
There are so many different reasons where the chat agents have gone rogue. So I don't have that turned on specifically, but where it is, it's saving me time. Again, it's saving me time in the posts and the blog, getting my name and my thoughts out there, which are going to be very warm leads. that'll come in. So people might take longer to make that decision to buy, but they're getting to know what we're really about. And so when they come in, that decision to buy is going to be less of a decision. I am using it to go through and upgrade my website. I'm doing one. I've got 3 different websites. I'm doing one with Claude, one with Cintra.ai, which is completely different. I've been using them for 4 years. They have 12 little employees, so they were the first to have individual agents, but they don't work like the agents work now. They're really cool. But
Okay.
I just basically go in the top and I say, hey, I want a website designer. And it says, oh, let's bring in the SEO specialist, or let's bring in the marketing specialist. So they've got their own personalities in the back end. So I'm doing one website with that, literally just page by page. I take the page, I plunk it in, I say, I want you to tell me, based on what is current trend, based on my personality, based on everything, what color should the back of my page be? What colors, what size font, what wording? Where should I put the pictures? What should the pictures be of? And so this is obviously, it's an experiment, and I do like the results. If I don't like them, I'm not putting them up there, but I'd say I'm at an 85% satisfaction rate of the quality of output I'm getting. So it's helping me with that. It's helping me with the SEO. So it's helping me fine tune my message. Absolutely. And then, like you say, I'm working with it on the pricing sheet in the background. And then one of our I guess upsells that we offer is that we are using it to do financial analysis of some of the work that we're getting. So it's helping us with the work, and I can say we are using AI for this. We are able to up the value and send clients, a detailed report on their quarterly or annual. And I've written this in the back end. So I have custom GPTs, and I'm working with what are they called in Claude? Starts with an S, and I can't remember what it is, but same type of thing. Custom skills, that's what they are.
Skills,
in Claude.
yeah.
They're skills. So I'm working with them trying to do that. Same thing, that I've got some set up right now that if I take, and this is something that's helped with sales, because I can now do a deep dive diagnostic review that is $1,500 that I charge to clients. I can do that, with about 5 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
Because I use AI to assist me, and then I dig in. There's another review that's an AI generated review that I charge less for, but they get no more of an hour of me looking into it. But I have it in the back end. I've got 62 points I want it to look at. So as long as I load up the full GL, the balance sheet, and the profit and loss month over month, I've trained it as to what to look for, and it's going to spit me back out a 62-page report with all kinds of things on it. So these are services that I would not have offered before, because we didn't necessarily have the time or the expertise to be able to even target them. So AI is helping me write the messages to target them, helping me do this and get the output in a way that now we can still provide it. And, of course, nothing leaves without a human looking at it. That is the one thing that is different with us. Although we use AI to assist us, a human verifies everything.
That's great. That's great. Very, very important too. As you pointed out, they make mistakes. Period.
They do.
And that's fascinating. Boy, and to be able to expand your services in such an extensive way is really compelling. Boy, outstanding.
Thank you.
You kind of led to a little bit of this. Now you're in financial services. Are there ways that you're kind of balancing regulations and privacy and compliance and those types of things? I'm sure, assuming everything you're doing is all compliant, but how do you think about that when you are using a third party like ChatGPT and others?
So needs to be in your engagement letter. Absolutely. You need to make sure that you have the proper insurance to make sure that your insurance will cover the use of AI. You need to make sure that you are compliant. So although I do consult for the US, I follow Canada PIPEDA laws, which are stricter than the US laws, Patriot laws, which is great over the privacy of the information as to what is uploaded. So again, nothing client identifying. It gets removed before I upload the report, so that way there's no company name. All they see is dates and numbers and chart of accounts. They have, the AI has no idea who it is. So we've got that set up. I use it to write courses. So in the courses, again, terms and conditions, this may be AI written. We use it internally. So right now, for example, we've got Budget 2025 was just approved this week in Canada. What does that mean for us? So I can take, using notebook.lm, I can take all of the resources that are credible sources. So I can go to Perplexity. Perplexity I love for research. It is for research, not creative. So I'll go to Perplexity, say, give me all the government sites for this as sources to use. I will then upload them into google.lm, which is completely free. It was created for students and teachers, for those who have never heard of it. It's free with your Google account. I load it into there. What is different about Google LM is it will not go outside of the sources you give it to use. You can then create a briefing document, a blog, an FAQ. I can send the link out to clients that they can go in and ask questions specific to what is in there. I can create an AI podcast to put out that talks about the content that's in there. So that's how we're using it with all of this, because laws change. They change all the time.
Absolutely.
And we need
Absolutely.
to make sure we're staying on top of it. I'm going to be doing that with the new tax laws that come out for tax season next year. I'm going to be doing the same thing. And again, I can create that. And instead of putting a chat agent, and this will be the next step, once I feel it's good enough, if I can tie a chat agent to my notebook.lm and have it only pull from those sources, I would let a chat agent go rogue with my clients. So that's kind of the next step where I'm looking, but I need to have a little bit more control over the chat agents, because they're not, they've gone a little bit rogue. Yeah. And there's actually been lawsuits against them.
I'm sure.
Yeah. One of the and I'll just say them, it was at their Air Canada, our main airline up here, had actually a chat agent tell somebody that as part of their terms and conditions or whatnot, if somebody had passed away and they provided the death certificate, they would get a full refund, I believe it was. So you'd have to look up to get the exact details. That was actually not the case. In their offerings, you did get, I believe it was part of a refund, but not a full refund. So they gave the part that was actually allowable in their terms. They got taken to court and they got told, your chat agent, even though it's not a real person, still represents you. You are responsible for the full amount, because this is what the chat agent said. They took their chat agent down for 72 hours, put it back up, and the only change was now there is a little codicil that says the information you receive from this AI chat agent may not be accurate.
Wow, that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit, boy.
Exactly. And so this is where when I talk to people that are, oh, Tanya, use chat agents, and oh, Tanya, do videos, do all these AI videos. I'm trying to balance the good and the bad. I don't want to use a lot of AI videos to create, because the carbon footprint. So I'm trying to balance it out. I don't want a big carbon footprint when there's other ways. But yet the courses I'm creating, I've got the text, and I'm using an AI to create text to audio for audio learners. So I'm trying to find that balance between everything. But
fantastic.
I answered your
fantastic
question plus some, I think, but there we go.
No, it's all fantastic. It's all incredibly relevant.